Hey folks, I'm Gene Delasala. We are here at the Florida Audio Expo with Legacy Audio, Bill Dudleston. I love visiting the guys at Legacy because these guys produce real product, very well engineered stuff, no snake oil. Love always talking to Bill. It's always an educational experience. Bill, I want to talk to you about this new amplifier that you have here, this 8-channel amplifier. It looks absolutely stunning. It sounds great. Why don't you give me a rundown of what is inside this box? How did you get 8 channels into a chassis that looks like it really is a 2-channel chassis? What kind of amplifier topology? What are you doing? What's the magic behind Legacy amplifiers?
Basically, I have to say that we had a need out there to be addressed with all these additional channels between Atmos and just in general multi-amplification that we've been seeing by amping. Even our flagship speakers are now being powered by an 8-channel version of this amplifier.
In fact, when I went out, what was it, like 2 years ago, I went and listened to the Valor series, and that was all done with the same amplifier technology that's in this amplifier right now, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so basically what's happened is in the last 5 years or so, Class D amplification has just gotten crazy good. And I take no part in the development of that except feedback to the manufacturers. We use Ice Power. The reason I chose Ice Power over some other brands, they're all very good. If I can say right now that you can name Pascal, Hypex, I could keep going, and they're all very respectable designs, brilliant designs, and they all have many common threads between them all. That's why they're so good. But I will say that the reason I went with the company that I did was because of heatsink area and reliability from the experience factor I had with the company already. They came out with a 200 module a number of years ago, and then a 300. That was the first ICE amplifier that I'd heard, or I should say Class D amplifier, that really grabbed my attention. And about that time, Pascal and Hypex also came out with some modules that were comparable. And so I got real excited about the fact that this is actually a high-end product now, and you don't have the limitations in bandwidth, you have much longer service life. I say that again, much longer service life. As somebody who's serviced amplifiers for 35 years or 40 years of my life, you just don't see the fatigue that you used to because of the cool running conditions. The amplifier itself, the 1200 AS2, which is what's used in these modules, the modules used in these units, in the IV7, the IV8, the IV4, the IV2, they're all using the same modules. Obviously there's economy of scale in that for us, but the amplifier itself, what's groundbreaking about it is this microcontroller that it's using that gets things done. It's you're familiar with what's going on in computers, and you look on a computer circuit board and you see these controllers, and in the old days you'd have these microprocessors, and then with the machinery and stuff you'd have microcontrollers. What's happening now is the microcontrollers have become so intelligent in terms of their capabilities that the thing that can make things switch and change and vary are actually as capable as microprocessors were. And so if you look at the Ice Edge technology, they have a chip on there right now that's actually capable of managing 8 amplifiers like this. Even though we're dedicating a separate Ice Edge to each board, they could actually, one of those chips could actually manage 8 of them. So that's the kind of power capability they have, and that's just groundbreaking. Signal noise ratio is scary good. In fact, I'm writing a paper right now on 24-bit technology, and are you really 24-bit? All these audiophiles buzzing about 24-bit this, 24-bit that, and high at 192 and 384, and it's like, come on now, let's think about it for a second. Look what the dynamic range of what 24-bit represents, and unless you have a minimum of 100 dB dynamic range in your room and your speaker system, you're not even tickling what 24 bits about.
Yeah,
So-
and to be honest with you, just when someone says 24-bit resolution, thermal noise itself limits you to really about, I think I calculated like 23 and a half bits. So if you're getting close to that with signal to noise ratio on this amplifier, that's state of the art. I mean, that's getting down to the measurement capability of my test gear, my audio precision test gear.
That's exactly the case, and and the bit depth is really where it's at. Sampling rate, once you're above 48K, you are, if anybody understands the Nyquist theorem, basically you're already there anyway. And if you go to 96, that's great. As if you're processing data, you have more consistency, and it's like anything else. The more room you have to play with. So if we're using a 56-bit processor, for example, that's a lot better than a 24-bit on a computer, because you can keep whipping off levels. You can adapt levels over and over again digitally and not throw away any of the original 24 bits. So that's what the capability of these devices have today, and it's kind of a wonderful time we're living in that regard.
So why don't you explain to me, when I was, it's been a couple of years, so I don't remember everything I saw when you gave me the factory tour, which was an amazing tour. I'll link up the video on the Valor series speakers. When you were building this amp, this was a concept 2 years ago. You were doing maybe a 2-channel at the time. I saw like you did a lot of heatsink area inside the amp, and I'm like, why do you need so much heatsink area in a Class D, which already has over 90% efficiency because of the fast switching? What was the deal behind you adding all of that heatsink area? Because you don't typically see an OEM manufacturer take a module like an ICE and then go and retrofit and do more mechanical engineering behind the scenes to integrate this into their own chassis. Tell me what that's all about.
A lot of that has to do with the truth in advertising, and that is that you might have an 80% efficient amplifier, for example, but that 80% efficiency occurs, it's kind of like a pump curve. It's a lot like the same thing if you look at if you're developing a pump to push fluids. There's a point where that any machine is most efficient when it's operating, and the same way with these output devices. So we're going to achieve 80% efficiency, but we're going to achieve it when there's a lot of power going through it. So when your idle temperatures are going to be higher, you have 8 channels of capability inside a chassis, and so you're going to still generate some warmth because you're not running 80% efficiency at very low levels, and that's just how it is. You're going to be probably a third of that. So. But at the same time, you'll notice with this amplifier, you can use it, and it doesn't seem to get any warmer. And I'm laying my hand on it, not have any issues with that at all. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm really impressed with how you did the form factor here, and it just looks like a beautiful chassis. Can you tell me a little bit about how much power you're capable of getting, and does it take 120 and 220, and is there a switching mechanism behind that, or is there auto sense that it automatically determines what the line voltage coming in is?
Yeah, the input voltage, it's auto selectable, so you can connect it to up to 240, and you can handle 100, 115, I mentioned that because of Japan, and you can get 120, 125, whatever. But it's going to auto sense and then lock in on that. You'll get a little bit more performance at the higher voltages. Some of the specs actually get a little better if you connect it to 220. So, but huge audible difference, I don't think so, but theoretical advantages to it. And as far as the overall capabilities of the amplifier, any one channel can put out a clean 1,000 watts individually. If you're driving 4 channels of this amplifier, you can get 4,000 theoretical watts out of it if you have the AC circuit.
Is that a 4 ohm reference?
It's a 4 ohm reference, yeah. Now, at the same time, if you're getting a multi-channel version where we call it the odds and the evens. But one of the things, the trick is with one of these amplifiers, I try to educate on it, is that every other, each channel is both an odd and an even. An odd and an even on the power supplies, I shouldn't say channel, each module is there's an odd and an even, so it's 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. And so if you pair them in a logical manner, you could put your surround channels on 2 and the left main on 1, and so on down the line, and so that you can get 900 watts into one and 300 watts into the other, or whatever, and you'll still be able to easily manage that. And music power is crusted, obviously, but at the same time, you want an amplifier that can do a sustain. Otherwise, you can't reproduce organ music or something like that. So I'm very much into amplifiers that are able to sustain their claim.
So do you label the silk screen on the back of the amplifier to kind of give people guidelines of where the front LCR should be paired versus the surrounds?
Yeah, that's something I probably should do. We're doing a manual and a template. We wrote a little spec sheet we've already sending out to customers now when they get the amplifier that explains the most optimal configurations for it. But, and the other thing I'll tell you too is that, for example, if you get the 4-channel version, we're offering that 2 ways. The economic way, which is the economical way where you're actually using 2 paired units, so it's 1 and 2, 3 and 4, or you can get 1, 2, 3 and 4 all in separate modules, and we call that the ultra version, and we charge appropriately and fairly for what the cost difference is to build the amplifier.
So I'm kind of curious as what this power meter does on the front. I see this little kind of needle. Why don't you give us a little rundown of what the purpose of that is?
Yeah, it's tied to input voltage, and basically it's there so if you get a voltage sag, you'll see it. If I turn the amplifier off, you'll see that blue LED that's in the center. It'll drop to amber. You'll notice it, even though these are Class D amplifiers, it'll take a while for that needle to drop because there is a robust power supply. In fact, if you don't mind, I'll just do it real quickly for you.
Yeah. So with these next generation of Class D amplifiers, these have regulated power supplies, and that's kind of an advantage that you don't have with linear supplies. When you get a really good regulated supply, it just gives you a lot of availability of power even at low frequencies. And where you said something about what, 600 watts?
It was just now starting to droop there.
Wow. So it holds on to the power for quite a bit of time.
These are real amplifiers. They're conservative execution of a Class D design, and right down to the heat sinking internally. Airflow through both the bottom and the top, even copper-plated heat sinks on it. And then there's also a fan cooling option for those that want to put it in a enclosed space or a rack space.
Is that thermistor controlled?
At this point, it's not, but it's a silent fan. It's just kind of always on. Whenever the switch is activated, the fan comes on.
So one thing I do want to say is I've been talking about Class D as the future for the last couple of videos on Audioholics, and I know people in the past have said, "Oh, you've said not such great things about Class D years ago." That's true because years ago, for example, ICE didn't make an amplifier module like this. The ICE modules, when they first came out, they were integrated into speakers, so they already knew the impedance of the speaker and they match it to that speaker. These amplifiers are load invariant amplifiers. They will sound similar and measure similar regardless of the load that they're driving, whether it's a 4-ohm speaker or an 8-ohm speaker. A lot of the first generation Class D amplifiers just didn't have the feedback topology to handle complex load impedances as well as what you're seeing in these kind of amplifiers. So we are here. We are in the 21st century. This is the future of amplification. Legacy is on board and the next generation amplifiers. I can't wait to actually get one of these into my place, do some measurements, do some listening. I've already listened to this amplifier on the Valor speaker, which was amazing. That was like one of the best experiences I've had audio-wise in my life. And then we also heard them on the Focus SEs, right? Mm-hmm. And this is just a great sounding amplifier, and it's a great looking amplifier. This looks like an audiophile product. Why don't you tell us, lastly, what's the price of the 8-channel configuration? And then you also have a 7-channel configuration that goes into a rack with ears, right?
Yeah, you can get that. Basically, you're looking at about $8,000 for the 8-channel, $7,500 for the 7-channel, I think $5,500 for the 5-channel, and so on down the line. And all the project pricing is quite logical as it steps down. And we build, while we try to build up some stock, I will say that we will configure as a customer needs. So if you have somebody that needs a 3-channel or needs a 6-channel, we can accommodate that.
Awesome. Well, Bill, I really appreciate learning all about this product. I always love coming here and just seeing what you guys are working on next. Happy to see this amplifier. Guys, if you like this video, please thumb it up. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Don't forget about our Patreon at patreon.com/audioholics. You get unique content. You get access to us if you want to ask questions or if you want to do suggestions for next generation video topics that you want us to cover. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.